Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back. It's your girl, Desiree D. Ray Wise. And today we're going to be talking about really quickly the spiritual messages that I picked up on that came from the show Black Cake on Hulu. Listen, if you have not watched the show, that's okay because I don't plan on doing any spoilers and telling you exactly in detail everything that was going on. But I really want to talk about the spiritual symbolism of Black Cake. And I feel like they released this show at the absolute perfect time. Right before we go into the winter season and we are in that hibernation internal state of being, right? Black Cake, when you understand the symbols that I'm going to share with you today, is going to really inspire you to really like do your internal work. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about the spiritual work, the internal work, the emotional healing, and all of those things. Because when we address, what's happening in our internal world, this is what impacts our external world. And I don't know about y'all, but I know what the winter season is all about. And I don't resist it. I don't go against it. And I want y'all to understand the winter season. And I want you to do the work so that you are supported in this season, so that this energy and this healing that's supposed to take place right now, you are able to embody. And the show Black Cake on Hulu really just gave us all of that energy. So if you saw the show Black Cake, awesome. Let me know in the comments if you saw it or in the chat if you saw it. If you didn't see it, like I said, it's okay because I'm not going to just tell you absolutely everything that happened, right? First of all, shout out to all of my Caribbean people. Y'all know Dream Wise's mother is from St. Thomas. His father is from Jamaica. So, and he ain't never had no black cake. He ain't never had no black cake, okay? But shout out to all the Caribbean people. This show was so good. It was so good. Like literally Dreamwise and I like binged it over a weekend. And then the very last episode we had to wait to see because we had binged it like 1 through 7 binged it. And then the 8th episode we had to wait till it came out. But it was so freaking good and it just kept us on our toes. And it just, I mean, all of the healing concepts that was coming up, I was like, oh my God, Spirit, you are work. Spirit was like, y'all need to see this, right? And so a lot of people have been caught up on the movie Leave the World Behind, right? And I'm of the perspective right now when it comes to that movie to where I don't even want to talk about the movie. I don't even want to get into it because it's just too much, right? Like when you think about that movie, I'm like, to me, y'all, I would rather do healing work all day, every day, than to have to focus on some doomsday shit. Okay. I would rather look at family trauma, work on healing that, emotional things. I would rather deal with that than have to focus on the world coming to an end and having to like get a bunker and like doomsday prep. So Black Cake for me over Leave the World Behind. Y'all let me know in the chat which one was more interesting to you. Black Cake or the movie Leave the World Behind. Leave the World Behind, I can leave it behind. Okay. I would be fine if I didn't even watch the movie. Okay. If I didn't even watch the movie, Leave the World Behind, I would be okay. But that Mahershala, honey, when Mahershala did that little dance, I was like, okay, Mahershala, go ahead with your bad self. Okay. So y'all didn't see it. Good for y'all. Don't worry about going to go see it. I mean, everybody's already talking about it. So don't worry about going to go see it. Right. It's just a bunch of fear mongering. And, as spiritual beings, we got to not put our energy into things like that. Okay. Be, as Brother Yosef would say, don't be scared, be prepared. Okay. All right. So Black Cake, as it was introduced to me, because I never heard of Black Cake, the actual cake, the actual dessert, right? Until I watched this movie. But I became so interested in it. I became so intrigued in it. And I'm so glad that y'all have watched Black Cake. Awesome. But I became so intrigued with Black Cake, the movie Black Cake, the series Black Cake, the dessert. And I'm like, Spirit, what's going on with all of this? And so, and that's awesome, Bree, that you plan on making it. That's so beautiful. But Black Cake from the Caribbean culture, as we've heard in the movie, it's a traditional thing. It's something that is passed down from grandmother to mother to daughter to sister to cousin. It's a family tradition in the Caribbean culture where they would bake this black cake for weddings or for birthdays or just to celebrate life, which is so beautiful. But something that really caught my eye in this movie, in this series of Black Cake, was their Black Cake was not the typical Black Cake that you would go and see on Google. Like if you type in Google Black Cake, you're going to just see a Black Cake, right? But specifically something that was so genius that they did in this movie that I want in this series that I want y'all to understand that really stood out to me was they didn't make it obvious that it was Black Cake. Yes, they said Black Cake, but if you had this cake in front of you, you wouldn't know it was black until they actually cut the cake open. And that's spiritual. And the reason why they did that was on purpose, because it was symbolic. And let me tell y'all, after watching the movie, the series, I went and did some research on the author who wrote the book. She actually kind of looks like the daughter at the end, the older daughter who grew up in, I don't want to spoil the show for people who haven't seen it, but the daughter, Mabel, the author actually looks like her, right? The daughter, Mabel, who, like I said, I'm not going to tell the whole thing, even though most of y'all are like, girl, we know what you're talking about. Awesome. She actually looks like, the author actually looks like her, right? But when I went and I looked at, when I think about what the author of the book who turned it into a series, what she actually did, I think that she very consciously and on purpose made sure that whenever they showed us Black Cake, it always had white icing, and you could not tell that it was Black Cake until it was cut open. Specifically at the very end of the series, when the children are standing around the cake and they're like, okay, let's dive into this cake, all we see is all white fondant, basically. All you see is all white icing covering this cake. You wouldn't know it was black until they cut it open. And as I thought about that spiritually, I thought about how a lot of us symbolically, and we see this throughout the entire series, how we hide our inner darkness, right? What they call the black or the shadow aspect of ourselves, spiritually, we hide it and we cover it in this love and light type energy. And you don't let anybody see that darkness, right? You don't let anybody engage with that shadow aspect, right? And that's kind of like the whole theme and the spiritual understanding of this series. It's about letting people into your inner darkness. Did y'all catch that? Were y'all able to receive that? Okay. And if you did catch that, and if you were able to receive that, how do you now, especially in this winter season, when we are in hermit mode, essentially, meaning we're all spending time with our own inner darkness because we have to. That's what this energy of the winter is all about. The winter season is all about spending time with your own inner darkness so that it doesn't eat you alive. Right? So the whole show was about covering up everything that you have going on inside of you and basically just getting by, essentially, right? And it's so deep. It's so deep because exactly, Static Shock. You've never saw Black Cake with icing, but they specifically had this white icing on this cake because the Black Cake symbolized what the mother was going through, what the son was going through, what both of the daughters were going through. Having this internal darkness and covering it up with a whole bunch of things, right? So, like the daughter, her internal darkness was covered up by the guy she was dating, right? Or being his muse, so to speak. The son, his internal darkness was covered up by being the most studious, the most awesome, the greatest scientist that he could be. The mother, being the greatest mother that she could be and not telling her story. See, the black cake symbolizes the shadow self, which is so juicy. And like I said, they released this series at the perfect time for people who are into this work like we are, to where you actually spend time with yourself. And you know what you have to do, y'all? That is so deep and spiritual, is that we first have to create a level of safety within ourselves, a level of security within ourselves, so that we can share some of our secrets. The reality is, and I talked about this on that last video that I just did, talking about what to expect in 2024. I literally said in 2024, we have to understand that the body keeps the score. So we really want to be in tune with our bodies, right? We want to make sure that we're being intentional about how we're eating. We want to make sure that we have an exercise regimen. We want to make sure that we're tuning into the different sensations that our body is giving us. But more important than that is tuning into our traumas, our emotions, our belief systems, and where we store them in the body. See, the mother, the reason why, and of course, let me tell y'all, of course, they didn't say, oh, let's make the mother have a brain tumor. Wow, because if she has a brain tumor, people are going to understand that it's because she has so much stuff on her mind. They probably were not very intentional about making that connection. But me as a spiritual being, what I observe is, oh, the mother has a brain tumor because she has so many stories, so many memories in her mind that she has not been able to express, that she has not been able to let go of, that she has not been able to get out, right? Because she doesn't feel safe to do so, right? So now she has manifested this illness in her brain because she has so much history that needed to be put outside of her mind, that needed to be released. And because she didn't do that, now it manifests as a tumor. Okay? Did y'all catch that? Did y'all make that connection? Or were y'all just like, oh, she's dying of a brain tumor? Right? Like, no. These things are symbolic of what is happening in the inner world, the emotions, the traumas, the stuff. That's why, y'all, for me, I talk about a lot of the things that I've dealt with, a lot of the traumas that I've experienced and such like that, because you just got to get it out. It's not to dump it on anybody. It's not so that anybody can like pity you, or it's not so that, for anything like that. But if you hold that shit in and you don't express it to the people who need to hear it, right? Or to even a therapist or a coach or somebody who's willing to help you, really carry that burden and process that burden, it has to go somewhere, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And that's a beautiful thing that Black Cake showed us. It showed us when you harbor and you hold on to these secrets and these shadow aspects and these traumas that you've experienced and you don't let them out, it eats away at you. Okay? And so I was just like, oh my God, thank y'all for showing that. I hope that people who are not even on the spiritual path could observe that and be like, okay, I need to talk to my mother about this, or I need to talk to my daughter about this. And here's why that is so important. The Black Cake also symbolizes the family secrets. How do we know that? Black cake in the Caribbean culture, literally the recipe is passed down from family member to family member to family member, right? You're not getting on Pinterest, right? Even though some of you might, right? But typically with this cake and with this culture, you're not getting on Pinterest and saying, how do I make black cake? Right? No, it's your grandmother or your mother made black cake, and now you want to try to make it because now you got kids and it's Christmas time. Let me tell y'all how real that is. Passing down these recipes. Some of y'all know this, some of y'all don't, but my grandfather passed away a few weeks ago. His funeral was actually on November 25th, the same day as Panic Celebration of Life. We went into labor that very next day, and it was a magical thing. So funny. My grandfather loved sweet potato pie, y'all. Any Thanksgiving, any Christmas, he was making the sweet potato pie, y'all. And he was coming to the house with multiple sweet potato pies. Like, he was not playing about the pies. Like, it was the thing that he was going to bring. And that's a memory of him that I hold on to, right? That's a memory of him that I hold on to. And so I had told Dream, because this was around Thanksgiving time, right? And I was like, I went into HEB and I had got a pecan pie because I love their pecan pie. And when I came out, I was like, shit, I should have got a sweet potato pie for Papa. But Spirit said, nah, you don't want to buy that in representation of him to put on the altar for him. You don't want to buy that. You need to make that. So Spirit was like, you got to make it. And so we had the baby, so I couldn't make it so soon. Some week or so had passed. Dreamwise ends up buying some sweet potatoes, and so I had them, and I was like, okay, it's time to make them. Y'all, I tried making the sweet potato pie by myself, like this past weekend. Y'all, it came out terrible. I mean, an absolute fail. I had to throw it in the trash. The first one that I made, because for some reason, Dream bought these sweet potatoes that was as big as a damn football. Okay. Like, y'all, don't buy sweet potatoes that big. I don't know what that's about. Like, the potatoes was like this big, and I didn't have the patience. Okay. I tried to bake the potato for an hour on like 450. The potato was so big, it did not get soft. I said, all right, let me put it back in the oven for about 20 more minutes. I put it back in the oven for about 20 more minutes. And the potato was still not soft enough, but I had lost my patience. So I'm like, well, let me just blend it up and see what happens. Let me see if I use an electric mixer, if it can get softer. Honey, that potato was so big, it was still lumpy. I had to throw it in the trash. And then Spirit said, why don't you just call your grandma and ask her to tell you how he made it? And so that I had another sweet potato because they were big, right? So I didn't have to use multiple. They were so damn big. So I said, Grandma, I asked her, I said, Grandma, tell me how to make these sweet potato pies. She said, well, Papa boiled the sweet potatoes. See, I was getting the recipe from YouTube. And on YouTube, they was baking them. Papa was boiling his potatoes. He was cleaning them, peeling them, cutting them up into small pieces and boiling it. See, that's the power of tradition. That's the power of the recipe. That's the power of the story being translated from the elders to the younger people and so on and so forth. So after I called my grandma said, okay, boil the potato, do this, do that, do that. I made the sweet potato pie again, and it came out spectacular, absolutely delicious. Okay. And you right, Static Shock. When I make mashed potatoes, I boil them to make them all nice and creamy and whipped, et cetera, et cetera. But YouTube said for sweet potato pie, bake it for however long, and I shouldn't have done that. The point that I'm making to you is that the stories that we have from our families really make up our identity, right? They really make up who we are. And that's why in Black Cake, the son didn't really know who he wanted to be. The daughter didn't really know who she wanted to be. The other daughter didn't really know who she really was. And it's because that recipe, right? Think about this. A recipe is all the ingredients that come together to make this end result. We all have a recipe, your mama and your daddy, your grandma and your grandfather on your mother's side, your grandma and your grandfather on your father's side. That's the recipe that makes you you. And hearing those stories, hearing how they became who they became, hearing what they went through, hearing, the challenges and the traumas and the triumphs that they faced, you know what I mean? This gives us some identity. This gives us something to hold on to and to thrive on. But it also gives us something to understand what we need to change and heal within ourselves. So a lot of times when we don't have these conversations, right? When we don't have these conversations, these challenging conversations, even these healing conversations, the children are out here trying to figure out what is life on their own, right? The daughter didn't know why she kept running away or why she kept accepting abuse. But if her mother sat there and told her, I had to run away from an abusive situation, now the daughter can say, oh, I don't have to repeat my mother's story because she told me this secret. She told me this thing that was hard for her, that was near and dear to her heart. She told me it. And because she went through it, now I don't have to. I can face this challenge head on. Right? But when we don't share the family secrets, it just keeps going, right? And the reality is that as parents, what we don't heal and transform, our children have to, right? And if you don't have children, then you may just have to reincarnate and deal with that same thing over and over and over again. And so it's so important to have these conversations and to stop with the damn secrets. I was talking to a client, and I've had this conversation with multiple clients before where they just don't feel that they could talk and have these intimate conversations with the people who are close to them. And what I know and realize that sometimes it's just having the conversation, even if they don't know how to receive it. See, the mother was like, oh, I don't want to tell them what I went through. They're going to feel so, whatever delusion she told herself. Whatever she told herself to feel safe, they're not going to know how to receive this, or they're going to resent us and they're going to do this. Stop. Now, I get it. I get that you want to tread lightly with some of these things, but a lot of times we're making assumptions. You don't really know how this person is going to respond, and how they respond is not your problem. That's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. We want to take responsibility for someone else's response to our truth or someone else's reaction to our truth. And so you'll hold on to a secret, you'll hold on to an emotion, you'll hold on to a trauma because you're like, they're not going to know how to take this. But is it worth you being sick over? Is it worth your child or your family member repeating the same cycle? Is it worth that? Or would you rather have the uncomfortable conversation, talk about how you learned from it, how you grew from it, how something impacted you, and break this cycle, right? You know what they say, when you don't give a name to a spirit, that's how a spirit keeps running rampant. When there is an energy or like an entity that is being destructive, and it's poisonous and it's venomous, essentially. If you can't name that spirit, if you can't verbalize it and vocalize it and call it out by name, this is why it continues to destroy families, essentially. Okay? Because you won't call it what it is. It's jealousy, it's envy, it's all of these things, right? So we got to stop doing that. I remember when I told my daddy that I felt abandoned by him, right? I didn't really care how he was going to respond. I vividly remember I was pregnant with our firstborn, KJ. And I was in my car. I love this car. I was in my Dodge Challenger. I was like, you know what? I had mustered up the balls, y'all. I had mustered up the balls. I was like, I'm about to tell my daddy how I feel because all of these emotions was coming up. Pregnancy will do that. Pregnancy will have you wide open, and even postpartum will have you wide open. That's why I'm kind of treading lightly with, how I make videos, consultations, and all of that stuff, because I'm like, it's so much emotional, just a whole bunch of stuff coming up, right? So I had mustered up the balls. I'm like, I'm about to tell him everything that I was thinking. I'm about to tell him all of what I was feeling, right? And so I had called them. I was in the car. I vividly remember I had just got off of work. I had been thinking about it all day. And I was just like, I just got to get this off of my chest. I just got to tell them how I feel. And I called him and I said, Daddy, what happened in my childhood really impacted me. Like, you not being there, or you saying that you were going to be there and not showing up, not being present. He didn't come to my college graduation. I told him all of that. I was like, all of that stuff really hurt me and it really bothered me. And it made me to be a certain type of person that I didn't really want to be, because I was just seeking and searching for like love and acceptance. And I really just wanted that from you. Do y'all know he told me all the reasons, and none of the reasons really had to do with him. It was all, well, your mama, she made it so hard, and we was always fighting, and we was da 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 and da da da. And in my mind, I'm just like, well, I really just wanted you to just show up and fight for me, right? Like, just forget what my mama talking about. Think about how your daughter would feel with you not showing up. That's what I needed from you. At the end of the day, my father did not respond with, I did this and I did that. He pretty much put it on my mother. But at the end of the conversation, he did come to the point where he apologized and he was like, I love you. You are my life. You are everything to me. I never want you to feel that way. I just didn't know how to handle the situation at the time. I didn't know how to be a father while still being a young man, because my father had me at like 23, he had me, and him and my mother broke up around like 26. My mother was his absolute first love. She was his first everything. She was his first experience to hot sexiness, right? And so he basically just said that he when him and my mother broke up, he had found a certain level of independence, so to speak, and he was just kind of figuring that out and working through that. But I had to tell him how his actions impacted me. And though he took partial accountability, it wasn't about him owning it. It was me just getting it off of my chest and saying, this is how you made me feel. A lot of times we be wanting somebody to take accountability or needing somebody to take accountability, and they probably don't truly feel like they did something wrong. But that doesn't change the way you feel, and it doesn't change your need to just get it off your chest. So I say to you, Black Cake just showed us what it's like and what happens when you keep things to yourself. Like, your family is assuming that they know why you're making the decisions that you're making. And like I said, and we don't understand that what we don't deal with, it just keeps going and going and going, right? The daughter was essentially her mother, because her mother never told her anything, because her mother never shared with her, never was vulnerable with her. Like, why are we wearing masks with our kids? Why are we wearing masks with our parents? Why are we wearing masks with our partners? And I think this winter season right now is going to be a time of it needs to be a time of vulnerability and realness, because there's so much healing. Like, the greatest healing, y'all, happens during the winter season. The greatest healing happens in the winter season. Why? Because you be around your family. It's Christmas. It's damn Happy New Year. It's all of those things that force you to really look at yourself, look at your family, and just be like, okay, what is serving me? What is not? What have I been holding on to? Now, don't get me wrong. Don't be at the Christmas table. Don't be at the table playing dominoes on Christmas and just start spilling everything to your family. No, there's a time and a place to do it. There's a way to do it, right? You don't want to call your mama out in front of everybody. Excuse me. Okay. Don't call your mama out in front of everybody, because how is she going to be able to receive what you have to say if she's embarrassed and feeling judged by everybody else? So let's not do that, okay? Let's try to create an intimate, safe space to have these sacred conversations. That's what needs to happen. Okay. Thank you. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, the family secrets was also the black cake. The family secrets was also the black cake. And we just gotta stop, right? We gotta stop with the secrets because when man, you know how many people have had challenging or hard experiences within their families and like they never told anybody, right? Like you never told anybody that you experienced abuse. Never told anybody that something broke your heart. I just told, it's so funny. I'm telling y'all, this is the energy right now. And Black Cake is such a gift to us. The show is such a gift to us. Just this morning, actually. Because y'all know we got a new baby and we got these other kids. And it's challenging balancing out having a newborn who needs you for everything, having these older kids who have this level of independence, but they still need their parents, right? And so I told our oldest son this morning, he was getting up, getting ready for school. And I told him, I said, babe, let me know when I can do something better for you. Because with him being the oldest, I'm like, I'm kind of like, come, you got to figure it out. You got to deal with it. You know better. You've been taught, you've been trained, you've been this. But that doesn't mean that he still doesn't need that more softer, gentler, more intimate side of me, even though we're in this very peculiar place with a newborn and a 2-year-old. Do you understand? So I told him this morning, I said, talk to me. If I'm being too quick with you, if I'm trying to force you to do things too much on your own and you really need my help, if I need to do something, right? If I need to do something different for you, I told him this morning, I said, please tell me. I said, it's a lot going on and I need to be here to support you as well. And so I told him, hopefully he understands what I mean and he comes and he talks to me about things. But that's the kind of space we want to create with our children, even if we didn't have that space created for us, because I know I did it. I didn't talk to my mama about shit until I had to. Has that ever been y'all? Where you in some shit now and you gotta tell your mama, because if you don't tell your mama, you don't know how you're gonna get out of this situation. Y'all, listen, I remember I was in high school. I was a junior in high school. I had a car. And I had a little Honda. So good. I had a little cute Honda Civic or Honda Accord. I don't know. But it was small and it was red and it was like my little go-kart. And I used to be everywhere in that little car, right? I had basketball practice. or a basketball tournament, something like that. And I was parking the car beside this all brick mailbox, right? I was outside of my coach's house. He had an all brick mailbox and like the whole team was meeting at his house. And I'm trying to park close to the curb and I like get too close to the curb and I sideswipe my little Honda, my little red Honda. I sideswipe it on his brick mailbox and now I got like this scuff with this little dent on my car. I was so scared to call and tell my mom, y'all, which was so ridiculous. It's like, why are you scared to tell your mom that you sideswiped a freaking mailbox? It's not like you hit somebody and you got to call the insurance company. Like, this is nothing. But I was scared. Why? Because my mother hadn't created this space of feeling safe to just talk about things when you make a mistake, right? Like we see in Black Cake, okay? The son couldn't even say that he didn't receive whatever he wanted to receive. The daughter couldn't say that she was in a situation that was, it's crazy. Anyways, y'all, I'm at my basketball coach's house and I'm like, I got to fix this. I don't want to tell my mom. I just got to fix it. Luckily, I had a little debit card. So him and we went to AutoZone. We go to AutoZone. We match the color of the paint on my car. We get some sandpaper, and I'm out there like a damn mechanic. Okay, I'm out there like a what the hell do we call it? I'm out there like a person who does body work on cars, y'all. I'm bending over. I'm sandpapering the little spot down. I done popped the little dent out and I done painted my car with the same red. And I go home. My mother comes out to that car. She immediately sees it. Desiree! That's how she yells my name when I'm getting in trouble. Desiree! What happened to this car? And I had to tell her. And she was so mad, but that was one of those moments where I'm like, well, I was scared to tell you. So I just went and fixed it myself, you know? But that's something that has to change. So if you have family members, if you have children, we got to learn to create safe spaces for ourselves and to create safe spaces for them, because otherwise these secrets or these missteps or these mistakes or whatever, we hold on to them and they fester and they become something else. You know what black cake also symbolizes, especially with them having the white icing on the outside of the cake and the black on the inside, is also symbolic of the fear of being seen. See, the sun was being the token black person, right? The token black person at the job, the token black person, to be on the panel or whatever. But that's not you really being seen, though. Because if you're really being seen and you're okay with being seen, then this means that you have an authentic voice. This means that you speak your truth and you allow yourself to be received for who you really are. So though he was on the stage, though he was getting these awards and accolades, or he really didn't, right? He still was invisible. Okay? The daughter, same thing. Not creating nothing, hiding behind this white man, so on and so forth. The black cake, afraid of being seen. That's why they put the icing on it. Rather than in traditional Caribbean culture, the cake is just black. It's like, just look at this blackness, just look at this juiciness, just look at this darkness. It is what it is. In this movie, they specifically covered it up. The mother, when she was younger, she was about that life. See me. See me. I'm a swimmer. I'm beautiful. But what we see, which is so good, what you see in this movie that we have to understand is that sometimes the fear of being seen starts at that young, tender age when you are great and you are excelling and someone takes advantage of that. Like the old dude did that tried to snatch her up. He saw her athleticism, he saw her beauty, he saw her exoticness and was like, I need that, I want that. And so from that moment, of course, as a young girl, you're like, okay, let me hide, because obviously weirdos are looking at me. And so you cover yourself up and you do whatever you can do to be small. Okay. The black cake also symbolizes that type of energy. And so right now with this winter, we got to really be asking ourselves, right? We got to really be asking ourselves, what do I want to be seen for? What energy do I want to project? And then you also have to know that you are naturally, divinely protected. And at this point in your life, for those of you who are here listening to this, at this point in your life, you have enough spiritual power, you have enough spiritual wisdom, and you have a connection with your higher self that is your protection. And I don't think a lot of people really believe that. That's why you continue to hide. Hell, that's something I even have to remind myself of. Because there are a lot of times when I don't want to create, I don't want to show up, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to do this. Because that's, we have this ebb and flow. There are times when I just want to be in hermit mode and I really don't want to talk to anybody. But what I'm learning is that I have this spiritual power, this spiritual connection that I can tap into and tune into that will be my shield, that will guide what I do, that will guide what I have to say, right? That will guide my creativity. And so we got to trust that and be okay with being seen, be okay with all of us, with all parts of us being seen. I'm going to address this comment right here, then I'm going to get off of here. If you haven't watched the show, I say watch it. Watch it during this winter season and let it be a guide to your hibernation. because the winter season is all about looking at the things that need to be dealt with. It's all about shining a light on your internal darkness and sitting with that and embracing that and reconciling that, so that when the spring season comes, you can rebirth and you can be born anew. That's what I'm talking about, right? That's my goal, right? Like, I can share this with y'all. I am embarking on a journey, and our newborn baby really ignited this within me when we were pregnant with him. But this is a time for rebranding, so to speak, meaning creating a new identity for yourself, like she did in damn Black Cake, right? She was Covey and turned into Eleanor, okay? She changed up her whole identity. See, that's what needs to happen, but it has to be deliberate. You're not doing it out of fear. You're not doing it because you're running away from some things, because you're running away from your past. No, you're doing it because you know and understand that there is a better, more powerful version of yourself that exists, that is waiting for you to align with it. So this winter season is the time for you to look at your own Black Cake, to look at your own darkness and say, okay, what qualities, what characteristics, what beliefs, what emotions do I need to transform so that I can be reborn, rebirthed, renewed, rejuvenated, and be my best self and be the person that I desire to be that girl, be that guy. That's what this energy is about. But if you don't want to spend time looking at that energy, looking at yourself, doing the work, going through those transformative alchemical processes, then by the time the spring comes, you're going to be looking the same, you're going to feel the same, and you're just going to stay in a cycle of being the same old you. And that's not how we're meant to live. They say if you're not growing, you're dying. That's just the reality. So the winter season really supports us in becoming anew and blooming and blossoming like a beautiful flower. So don't run away from this space, right? I like what April Love says. She says, was just reading Straight from the Heart by Dr. Jewel Pogram, and she was speaking that there are no victims. And this is true. This is true. But it takes a certain level of consciousness to be able to embody and integrate that understanding. I teach this in Womb Alchemy. And actually in Womb Alchemy, I have a whole video from Jewel Pogram that she just goes hard. In one of these videos, it's so hard to digest what she says if you're not ready for that work. She basically says that when she was working as an OBGYN, a newborn baby came in that had been abused by an adult man, a newborn baby girl. And she had to go in and do surgery on this baby girl. And she's doing the surgery on the baby girl. And she's asking herself, how does this happen to a child? Like, how does this happen? And she received a revelation that said, we have past life karma. We have past life debts that we have to pay off. And because of these past life debts, we manifest certain things in this realm that give us the opportunity to pay off that debt, to reconcile our past. And I teach that. I teach that because when you understand that, you start to see the gift in these traumas, right? Which you have to see the gift in the traumas for you to actually be triumphant. If you cannot see how trauma actually serves you, how it actually supports you, how it actually uplifts you, if you cannot see that, then the trauma will continue to haunt you like it did Eleanor, aka Covey, in Black Cake, right? I love the character in Black Cake, Bunny, her best friend. Love her story. I love that she did what she did. She put it behind her and became a star swimmer. I love that for her. I love that for her. And I love that she got the opportunity to make peace with what happened in their past. You know what I mean? But like I said, the reality is that we have to understand that everything is serving our highest good, no matter how ugly things may get. And I think that's a real gift of this show, because even at the end of the series, I didn't feel let down by it. I felt like, wow, good for them, right? Good for them. They get to use their experience to enliven their lives now. And that's what we're meant to do. So during this winter season, I first of all I want y'all to watch the show and finish the show. But secondly, I want you to spend time with the things that were hard for you, the challenges. And first of all, know that it's okay to spend time processing. You know, um, I can immediately see the gift in certain experiences that I've had, but it doesn't mean that some of the grief of the experiences that I've had goes away. They say two things can exist at the same time, and I'm starting to believe, and that can't be true, because we live in a world of polarity. So here's what I mean by that. I have gratitude, right, that my grandfather is no longer suffering. But there's still a grieving process. There's still this wow, okay, he's not here. You know, I have gratitude that I am here safe, alive and well, and we have this beautiful baby. But there's still this grieving that I did not have the birth that I desire to have. So these two things can exist at the same time, you know? So that's what I want y'all to understand. So, though you're looking for the gift of your trauma and your black cake and your family secrets and your identity and your hidden truths and your shadows, though you're looking for the gifts in it, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have emotions of like sadness that may come up, or grief that may come up, or the winter blues. Doesn't mean that those things won't come up. The thing is, you just don't sit in it. You just don't sit in it. You just don't mope around in it, right? And you do things that are going to shift your perspective. We don't want to bypass it though. We don't want to say, oh, I don't feel like feeling that. Let me distract myself with something. No, that's bypassing. So like even the other day, I was in the car driving and Dreamwise called me and he said, yeah, you know what's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm in the car just thinking. He said, thinking about what? I said, just thinking about Kai's birth and just thinking about everything. And he was like, oh, what you thinking exactly? And I started telling him, you know, and so I have the right to do that though, you know, because the more I sit down with it, the more I integrate with it, the more I embrace it, the greater the understanding I have. Okay. And so we got to learn to be okay with that. And you can do that and still have gratitude and give yourself some grace as you're going through that process. And the winter season is going to support you with that. Okay. So love the show. Y'all gonna watch it. I'm so glad to talk with y'all about this. I'm glad that a lot of you have already seen it. The show is such a gift. It's such a gift to us right now going into this new season. And yeah, I'll be talking with y'all soon. Peace and love. Y'all enjoy y'all's evening.